Grizz, you went pocket hole crazy. Well, yeah, I did. And actually, because of the amount of screws I have in this thing, I'm not going to glue it. I think with 67 pounds of screws, it'll hold together just fine. I just ran over these with the random orbital sander just to clean up some of the tear out from drilling the pocket holes. But the way this will work is these are the sides. They will screw into the front and back like such, and then the top will actually be inset like this, and then I'll cut off the top, put a hinge back there, and the bottom is actually going to be underneath like this, and 3 boards. There will be gaps, but remember, all of the interior of the box is going to be covered with those plywood panels. So once this is put together, you'll never see these pocket holes. But it will be put together, and it should be plenty strong. Back soon. I think I may have forgot to say it, but howdy. This is Grizz. Welcome back for part 4 of Gun Cart Build. The first little clip. I forgot to say that. So anyway, I am actually just about to break for lunch, but I figured I'd clean off my work area to get ready to put the box together. And once I got it cleaned off, I couldn't help but go ahead and figure out how I'm going to hold this together to screw it together. So my assembly table here is flat, or pretty darn close, using this checked board for a reference. Make sure everything's square there. I have it lined up, pull tight with these quick grips, which I'm not counting on too terribly much, which is why I have the right angle clamp there as well. Holding that tight, I'll go ahead and do that screw and maybe that one, and then reposition the clamp, checking, making sure everything's still right. I have it flush down at the bottom and at the top, and it was sticking out a little bit in the middle, and actually still is. Put that clamp on there to try to draw it together, but it's possible that there's just a little bit of a bow in that board, but it's enough you can feel it, but not enough that I think it'll be a problem. I'll just, clean that up with the sander. But anyway, that's how I'm going to hold it together. And of course, once we get on to the last side, it could get interesting. But that's why I'm just showing you the setup and not me actually doing it. So I'll be back in a bit, but I'm going to break for lunch now. Just a quick little clip here before I go in and take a break. Drinking too much water. This is actually upside down. You can see these holes here are to attach our bottom, which is going to be just more of these boards. 3 across. It'll actually leave a couple little gaps, but it's going to be on the bottom, so who cares? And of course inside we'll have plywood, but fits down in there really well. I think even once the overhanging lid is on there, it's going to be plenty easy to lift out. We are making progress. Need to put a sander to it. Have a couple things that just aren't quite flush and everything, but that's what sanders are for. So, moving along. Here's a quick clip just to show you why I'm glad I have heat in my shop. It is a little bit cold today, probably 20 degrees, humid, which is rare for Colorado. Never mind the broken down lawn tractor there. It has a transmission problem I haven't been able to figure out yet. But anyway, I'm going back in the shop where it's warm. Oh yeah. Oh, bonus. Mickey Mouse bandsaw box I made years ago. Wife couldn't figure out anywhere to put it, so I never did my final wet sanding and shining and waxing. So there it sits. Kind of neat though. Okay, back to it. Okay, shop tip for you here. I'm breaking up the 8-foot long board, and obviously that's not going to go through the table saw on the miter sled all in one piece. Ideally, I'd have the compound miter saw in here, and I could actually make my finished cuts on that. But as you can see, my shop is a pit. My miter saw is in my other garage, not even on a table, just sitting on the floor because the table's been commandeered for other things. Anyway, long story short, to break things down, I don't do final length. I leave myself room to clean up the ends and do my final dimension. Just use what I call a speed square and line it up close and do my rough cut and then finish it up on the table saw with the crosscut sled. To note when you're doing that is make sure you allow enough room to, when I bring in a piece here, I clean up the leading edge and then I have a stop adjusted so that all my pieces are the same distance or the same length. But when you're breaking down your longer pieces, you need to account that each time that blade goes across, it's going to take, for that blade, 1/8 of an inch. Some blades are a little bit more. But for that 8-foot piece of poplar that I just broke down and cut up, other than the saw kerf, what the saw turned into sawdust, this is the amount of waste I had off of that board. And by planning things out, pardon my mess, that's my waste off of the other 2 8-foot boards that made up the frames for the Possibles box. Oh, by the way, I don't know if I told you. My mom called and said, a gearbox? Why does a push cart need gears? And I said, well, it's for all your stuff. And she wondered why it wasn't a stuff box. And I said, well, you know, the old mountain man had bags for all their Possibles, their black powder accoutrements and whatever. So I decided we're changing the name of this to a Possibles box. Back soon. I'm back. Okay, this is a mock-up of what the front of the Possibles box will look like. Obviously that's not the plywood I'm going to use, nor the plywood for the top, but it kind of shows you what it's going to look like. I had to do this so I know where to cut the top off, and then I can go from there. I'm going to put on a bottom, and as you can see, I got my cart fixed, but I'm working on an idea. The new cart will have an upright similar to this. Not sure placement on the rifle rack, and that's going to depend. The push handle is going to be mounted on the inside possibly, and my thought is, or on the outside actually, makes it a little bit easier, but, and then no, it won't work on the outside. Anyway, my thought is to have it attached in a slotted hole so that it could, as a unit, be lifted up and then rotated back. But it would have a board across here so that it was contacting this cross piece here so it had positive push. But that's just kind of a pipe dream. So, but I thought before I can figure that out, I kind of need to get my uprights cut and some other stuff done. So I have a few minutes tonight after work to maybe get started on that. So I'll see how far I can get, and then I'll let you know, and maybe I'll wrap this segment 412, whatever it is, and go from there. Back soon. Okay. Quick update here. I put the stretchers on the bottom of the lower tray. I put 2 here because this is going to be underneath the possibles box over there, and also give me something to attach feet to. Depending on how I do the feet, I may have to put something else in there, but I can certainly handle that. And I put one up here underneath the axle. Actually had another one that I could have put in here just to make it a little bit more even, but I decided I really didn't need it. And as you can see, I have 3 holes there I screwed up and didn't change the setting of the collar on the pocket hole drill bit. So it would still work, and this is going to be the bottom side. Nobody would see it, but I don't really see a need for that. And this will also give me the wood if I need something for doing the feet. So onward and upward. And on the feet, now that I have those stretchers across the bottom, went and put my axle in so I could gauge how high up, and I was, measuring from the middle of the axle hole, and the radius or whatever the tire, and pi r squared, but pi r tasty apple for me, please. And I decided, this is silly, so I put the axle in, turned it upside down, got my handy speed square, lined it up, and said, okay, it's right at about 5 inches there, plus a 1/4 inch for the base, or about 5 1/4. But since this is going to be under the front where the gearbox is, where someone potentially is sitting, which most ranges have gravel, which means it's going to settle down, I'd rather have it tall, higher, if anything. And even if the entire cart sits wheels back here, when it's sitting, if it's angled a little bit up, that isn't going to matter. If it's angled down, that could be bad, so we want it angled up. So anyway, I'm talking a lot here again. Hope you don't mind. So anyway, after doing the speed square, I started stacking up some material to see what I had that might work. Which actually don't even need the speed square. Just kind of start stacking up. And what I came up with is this pressure treated 4x4 which I definitely want to use and have on the bottom, since that's what's going to be in contact with ground. And then a piece of our 1/2 inch stock, which we've been using for a number of things, and a 2x4. That gives us maybe about 3/8 of an inch tall, which I think isn't a lot, but I think that's enough. And so now I need to figure out how to get this all attached, and maybe we can throw some wheels on this thing, and it's going to start looking like a cart. Okay, back to work. Back soon. The furnace kicked on. Must be time to take some video. Some things are worth dragging the miter saw out of the other garage and finding a place to set up in the shop. I can tell you that thing has put on weight since last time I moved it. That thing is heavy. Anyway, so I'm working on the feet, and you can see I was working off of existing miters, so they aren't exactly pretty, but this is going to be underneath. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, only I need to build that. Pardon me while I grab a chair. I need to build those up so that they are the right height. So I'm thinking maybe 2x4 and a piece of our 1/2 inch underneath. See if we can do this quickly for you here, so that they will be like that. somehow or another. They'll be recessed underneath the edge, so they won't necessarily be seen a whole lot. And I mitered the edges just because I can, and I like the way it looks, so that in the end they will wind up spanning both of these stretchers that go under the gearbox. They'll just be built up. So that's the next thing to figure. And of course I'm arguing with myself on the best way to do this, because of course I want it to be pretty, but at the same time I want to get it done and move on to funner things. I got a couple of nifty ideas for the handle, which we'll see if they work out. Anyway, I think it's time to break for dinner. I was at work all day and decided to come out here and do a few things before dinner, but I think I probably ought to eat before I do too much more here, and make sure I don't screw anything up, which I obviously already have, but thankfully it was nothing that couldn't be easily fixed. Okay, back soon. So must be time for a segment. So here's the legs I wound up coming up with. What I did is I just used my new best friend pocket holes, and first attached these cross members to the two bottom feet on both sides, and then put these on, and then this will go up under the cart and screw up, which is why I left that lip. This is the first time I have test fit it, so taking you along for the ride. So it's probably not centered. Obviously I'll have it upside down when I attach that, but that is pretty much what she's going to look like. Those look crooked from the side. Hopefully they don't, once I get them all in position. And the uprights just have holes in them, and they're just kind of clamped roughly in place, just to kind of show what the final product is going to look like. And hey, had to put the bottom mat and the dividers in to show what it is going to look like, and I think it is going to be a beast. I'm curious to see how it handles weight wise once I get everything put together, and I know this is going to be plenty sturdy for me to even sit on. And after I get it together, I will test fit it. There will be a piece of plywood all the way across, and the top will be cut off this box. Remember the two draw catches on the front, and a padded seat, and of course the plywood panels in here. But that's kind of where we are. So I think I'm going to wrap up part 4 here and keep it under 15 minutes, which means part 5 will see me putting in panels, milling those uprights to final dimensions. Right now they're just, roughed out with the holes in them. Need to come up with a push bar, and I have, the rifle rack of course, and all of that sort of thing. But starting to look like the final product, I think, which is a good thing. Okay, I guess I will sign off for now. Hope to see you down the trail. Hope to see you back for part 5, which will be finishing everything up and maybe even putting some finish on it, unless we go to a part 6, which who knows. Anyway, Hope to see you down the trail. Until then, watch your top knot.